Hey, everybody, this is Tim Shaw. You're listening to Where Else? The Black Cat Lounge, where the elite meet next to the transfer station. It is where the important people are, and we get a chance to pick great stuff out of the trash, as you can tell behind me. It's all, and by the way, we are powered by StreamYard. Got to say to everybody, happy Groundhog's Day. Puxatani Phil, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? 6 more weeks of winter? Wait a minute. You go up north. Go north. My friends up north, they got that white thing up there. I don't know what it is. If it's an albino groundhog or it's a rat or it's got like a real long. I have no idea. But it says early spring. So maybe we're going to go with that one. What do you think? And everybody that's out there in the in all my my friends in the communities, in the craft communities, happy Embolic. Oh my God, it's the sun. It's the bringing back of the sun. We know now it's time. Anybody out there have a fire? Welcome back to sun. Anybody else a fire? I had a candle going. That's what I do. The late Ray Buckland, we've often talked to him before he passed about, being able to go and modernize the pagan rituals of old. And when he was younger, I mean, he would go out there and he'd have the bonfire going because he had a hobby farm. That cat was something else, man. He was an unbelievable prolific writer. He was he basically built his own biplane and flew it. He taught himself how to weld so he could work on a Corvette. When he used to cruise into Lilydale to teach, he'd cruise in with that black Corvette, and all the women their hearts would be going, oh Ray, can I come and help you move stuff? And but he was something. He was larger than life. He was about 5'6", shock of white hair. But the guy had a photographic memory, and I'll never forget. He was on my show shortly before he passed away, and to be polite, I asked him, hey, I'll give you all my, I'm going to tell you all my questions up ahead. So this way you can kind of prepare for it. He answered all the questions, all 12 questions in like one breath. Okay, we might as well just shut the show off. But he was just fantastic. But Embolic, we were talking about the Yule log and the bonfires, Samhain, Halloween, the bonfires that would go and that would ring the fields or that sort of thing. And he said what he did was he had candles. He would use a 7-day votive candle, and that was what was important. He always said it's not the outward sign, it's the intent of it. So I think that was pretty neat. So yeah, I had a candle going yesterday. So happy Embolic, everybody. Now, also, how's everybody doing? I always like to ask. The reason I like to ask is because so many people don't ask. I see a couple friends. Nobody ever asks me how I'm doing. They ask me for money. How you doing? Hey, my cousin's in jail. I need bail. You got some cash? Got some quick cash? Sure, I got some cash for you. And we go and nobody ever asks. So I always like to ask. I think it's polite to ask. And you know what? A lot of people, when they do ask, they don't really care what who you are, or they don't really care, how you really feel. I care. The reason I like to go in the care. Hey, my friend Amy Mueller is in today. Hey, Amy, how are you? I'm glad that you were over there. And Peg is in. Love you, Peg. Good to see you. And Joe from Paranormal Oddities, where the elite meet in Depew, New York. Anyway, so I really care because so many people are really hurting. And I had a thing with StreamYard. I was talking with one of the reps the other day, and they asked me about why we do this show. And I told them, well, I'd done it for CBS and we were on all the other stuff. And I said, we brought it back for the reason of COVID so that we can reach out and they were just like, wow, you're not doing it for money. No, we're not doing it for money. We don't really care. We have fun. And Andrea's in the room. Hey, listen, anybody that loves Andrea knows that she has a little bulldog, but Jerry is adorable. I'm just going to tell you, Andrea, and my friend Kim is in the room. This is fantastic. Well, anyway, I like to make sure that everybody knows that, that I care. I'm glad that people are feeling good. Now I got to tell you something. It's funny when they were working on this eye. When I woke up, I figured they were just going to put the lens implant in. No, I have some cadaver tissue. I have a little somebody else in my eye right now. And it's so funny because uh I had a lot of problems with it. I had some damage to the eye years and years, 20 some years ago. And my buddy Frank, first thing out of his mouth, of all the people that have pieces of cadaver flesh in their eye, I guess they're right. I guess they're right. Now I keep looking around going, am I going to get that memory? Like the heart transplant, organ transplant people. Oh, am I going to get the dreams? So far, no, nothing's happened. Although I will say one thing. Back when we first started the show, and I'd be sitting here, so I'm looking straight out, and my collection of haunted objects and oddities are like in front of me. I would see like wisps that would come by, wisps. And I thought it was the eye. I thought my eye was malfunctioning and, I was having trouble with everything was foggy, more foggier than it is now. And I have to say the other day, guess what? I had somebody, it looked like somebody was standing in the corner, just kind of like doing one of these. I always remember at Waverly Tuberculosis Hospital in Louisville, Kentucky, we used to see that come out of the doorways, like, the head and shoulders. So I have a little somebody that, that was going, and my buddy Bruce Tangle, Dave Tangle's dad, is in the room, my good buddy, and he wants to, how are you? Can I borrow $20? You know what, Bruce? Not only can you borrow $20, I will go and I will give you $50, and all you have to do is make me meatballs. That's it. He's the meatball king. I'm just going to let everybody know. But Bruce Tango is in the room. Love you, Bruce. I miss you. We're going to have to get together really soon. The other thing is I was wondering why maybe I was starting to get a little bit more activity down here, the shadow people. But I remember I did a talk last week for a Zoom talk for the Holistic Alliance of Western New York. Honey, they wanted me to do something, crazy. And so I went and I took a lot of my haunted objects out. And my talk was all about how the objects that you own can hurt you or help you, the energetic, how everything works. So I had my crucifix that was used in the exorcisms. And I had, some of the crazier dolls, and Bill Randall's in the room. Bill Randall, I salute you. Welcome aboard, sir. Katie's in the room. How are you? And I think what happens is, I have them in cabinets with selenite. And I think that when I pull them out and like put them places, or if I take them, I think kind of rattles them a little bit. I think that maybe they might get a little, I think they're happy where they are. I don't think they want to be moved around. So either I disrupted the energy, maybe I cocooned them in the cabinets. I don't know. So I was having a visitor down here. And even though my wife is in the room, she just wrote, no, don't tell lies about the basement. Sorry, we're going to tell lies about the basement. But anyway, I think I thought it was hysterical that it happened. So, speaking about like different things, and as you guys know, what a history nerd I am. You guys can look around me and I'm just oozing history behind me. We've got a great show for you tonight because of the fact that we are going to talk about, and you guys have heard me mention it before in other shows, the Hull House. And it is a tremendously historic house for Western New York. And people don't realize what a gem it is. It's an amazing gem here. And people don't, hi, Kathy, how are you? Hey, Scott, how are you? People don't realize that it's even there. And that's what a shame that is, because it's a farmstead. Well, we'll talk about how big it is and we'll talk about everything that's in there. But we have two guests. Now, everybody has seen The Shining, right? And, that the only, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I love the movie. The book is good, but the movie's crazy because Jack Nicholson's nuts in it, and that's what I love about it. But where the little boy is like pedaling his cart down there, his little big wheel or whatever down there, and the two twins are standing there. Well, I'm going to tell you something. the Stanley Hotel is not the only place that has twins. It doesn't. I'm telling you right now, there is at the Hull House, there is a set of twins that defies logic. To me, I can't tell the difference between either one of them, but you know, I'm me. So listen, I have trouble like in a when I go pick up my dog from daycare and there's a pack of dogs out there, I still have trouble trying to figure out which one she is. Hey, Laura, how are you? Jason, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Jen, how you doing? Good to see you. And but anyway, I'm going to look down because I'm going to pronounce their last names correctly. And I have it in my handy dandy cheat notes because I have to, because otherwise I have a man brain. And when you have a man brain, hey, Candace, how are you? Hey, Stephen, when you have a man brain, sometimes it just doesn't work. And, you know, there's two ladies coming on, twins. They will be the first ones to tell you that man brain doesn't work sometimes. So anyway, I want you guys all to have a really nice, warm welcome to Amy and Rebecca Haymanowski. Haymanowski! Haymanowski! Wait a minute. Hold on. We got to do it. Welcome, Rebecca and Amy Haymanowski! Hi, ladies.
Hey, Tim.
How are you? You know, it's so great. And, you know,
that was quite the intro, Tim.
Listen, you girls deserve it. You girls deserve it. That's all there is to it. And you know, it's so funny because before we went on the air, I had to make sure I said their last name right, because they are two twin ladies that married brothers, and that's like amazing to me, you know, because my mind is just blown about that. I the odds of that are like, you know, if I was a betting man, I would have lost everything on that. I would never have gotten that one right. But hey, Eric, how are you? My buddy Eric from Patronus Photographic is here. I would never have even suspected that. But ladies, may I go and just ask you? Let's talk about a little bit about what got you involved. What brought you to the Hull House? I always like to ask that because of the fact that some places it's like synchronicity. It draws you in. You know, it's the energy. It's just for whatever reason, it just brings you in and you feel like you're home. So guys, what brought you guys to the Hull House?
Yeah. Well, a number of years ago, we were active members at the Amherst Museum. At the time, it was called Amherst Museum, but now it's the Heritage Museum. And we were involved with the Victorian Dance Society for a number of years. After that, we had left that program for a while due to having children and being busy. And not this past August, but the August before, my husband and I were looking to do some historical volunteering in the area. And at first we were thinking of Fort Niagara, and we knew that it was such a large venue and so many people volunteer there. It's a great place. So we wanted to stick closer to home. So the first thing that came to our minds was the Hull Family Home in Farmstead. So my husband gave Gary Costello, who's the president of the foundation, gave him a call and asked if they were accepting any volunteers for, you know, any type of work to be done around the property. And Gary immediately gave us a call back and gave us a tour of the property. And after that, it worked so smoothly. It was just a connection, and we've been volunteering ever since that time. And then my sister and my brother-in-law also joined us too. And it's just been a great way to meet new people, new friends with the same interests, and also spend time with family. Yeah, you should realize we grew up around the house, and we used to pass the Hull House all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Pavement Road in Tennessee, and we would pass it all the time. But now that we're involved, we understand exactly how special the house really is.
It's amazing because I've been called to a lot of places like that. I mean, there's like Fort Niagara's always been a call for me, you know, and I volunteered up there for years. Of course, Hinsdale is you know, that when Hinsdale gets its meat hooks into you, that's hard to break away. Gettysburg is huge for me because usually I try to get down there 2 to 3 times a year. So it's one of those things. So I totally understand that. Uh, when you go to a place like this, let's talk about how it feels to be a costume interpreter there. What is, I mean, see, people don't, I know a lot of people don't understand it. I mean, I'm like, you know, as someone who has done different time eras and stuff from Middle Ages right up through, you know, Span Am, I gotta, I can say that it's like, it's a calling, but when you're on the other side of, they always call it the other side of the table. When you're on the other side of the table, people just don't get it. They're like, why are you dressed up in these uncomfortable clothes? Aren't you hot? Aren't you sweating? So what's the draw for to reenact at that time period?
Well, I think when we did the Victorian Dance Society, we were dressed in period appropriate uh, garb all the time. Every time we had balls or demonstrations, we got very used to that feeling. And yeah, sure, people are going to look at you and say, "Whoa, why is she dressed that way?" And but after a while, you don't even think about it anymore. It just comes like it's like second skin, and you just need to make sure that with the Hull House, we start with the Regency style, which is around 1820 or so. So styles are a little bit different than they were obviously in the 1860s. I don't know, you just get used to it and it just puts you right in the time. And I think that people that enjoy history and want to come to the house, I think the added costume, especially for the women, they're really interested in the style of the period, the style of the day. And we try to be appropriate as far as like shoes right on up. So like her opinions were, whatever the stockings, the shoes, all of it. We just try to, that's actually part of the lesson. And it helps, especially with younger people, I think, students, I think they really appreciate it. And then you do get the women, especially, that come in and say, "You look fantastic. I just love your dress." And I think it just adds to it. When you volunteer at the Hull House, you don't necessarily have to dress in period clothes. You can wear a Hull House shirt and be a docent just the same. And some people prefer that. But for us, we feel like the costume is actually part of the history.
I kind of love it because of the fact that you're able to go and let me address this time tripping. Do you ever find yourself like all of a sudden one day you're like, wait a minute, what year is this? I mean, I've done that. Amy Mueller Stucker is on, and she goes, brings back memories, Tim. Do you really sleep in those tents? Do you really eat that food? Oh yeah. She remembers when I did the 20-some mile marches and stuff, you know.
Right.
But do you ever lose track of what, like, all of a sudden it's like
sometimes
that split second you're like, you're there.
And I want to, there are many, many days, and maybe some of you feel the same way, where you want to lose track of time. Sometimes I just want that time period. And it takes me out of this world for a little while and puts me in a different one. And I love it. It's a simpler, you're right. And it's even when you're in the house and we have those downtimes and you don't have anybody visiting at that moment and you're kind of in the house by yourself, or maybe and we're in our garb, it's like, this is our house. This is, if you straighten up, you feel the breeze coming through the windows. Just like the Hulls felt and saw the sunshine in the windows, you're feeling it the same way that they did. So if it wasn't for the traffic on pavement, I would believe that I was back in 1810.
No, I agree 100% with that, because it becomes just for that split second. Sometimes you're there, and I often wonder if it's a psychological thing or it's more of a metaphysical thing, because I really believe that once you cross over and you really can enmesh yourself in that time period. I often feel that maybe perhaps we've gone and we've triggered something, some kind of a hidden memory in our own brains that brings it out. I think that's great. Now let's talk a little bit about the Hull House. Tell everybody about the main house, and then we can talk about the other buildings and stuff that are on the property.
Yeah. So as far as the history goes, just a little quick snapshot for those of you who maybe haven't visited yet. That house was built by Warren Hull, who was a Revolutionary War vet. He traveled with his wife Polly from Connecticut across New York State, across the Genesee River, and straight into Batavia, which is where their first stop was the Howland Land Company. And Warren Hull was one of the first people to actually purchase land from the Howland Land Company. And so he did take an article of land, which is basically almost like a down payment. And the stipulation was that Warren had to, and actually anybody buying land at that time, you had to make an improvement upon it within a certain time period. Usually about 10 years. Sometimes the contracts were different than that. But within 10 years, you would have had to have some kind of structure on that home. And in this case, especially in that area, being on the Batavia Road, it was that you were supposed to have a tavern of sorts on that road, so that visitors traveling from Buffalo down the Batavia Road to the city, which was Batavia, would have a place to stop and rest. And the Hull House was a good halfway point for travelers to go there. So they took their article of land, and we know that Warren did take the deed to that land within the 10-year period. So we know that he must have been successful in putting a structure on the property. So then he resided in the house for quite some time with his family, and we do have the other family members, other families who have lived in there during the Civil War time and after that as well.
It's an amazing place. It's an amazing place. But what is neat about the location is you not only just have one, you just don't have one house. You've got a barn that was built, during the Civil War times. You have a Victorian home that is the begin. I think it was 1840. The front of it was built, something like that. I can't remember.
Yes. You're right.
Brain. I forget.
You're right, because what's interesting, well, the Victorian home is seemingly to be my new treasure, and I'm trying to learn a little bit more about that. That house was built in 1890 by Abram Erskine, and as we were doing the paranormal investigations, one of the things we started to stumble on was the barn, or the garage as it is now, that is on the property. It was there. Apparently, that may be a structure from about 1840.
Wow.
Means that it could have been an outbuilding for the Hulls, or maybe some of the other subsequent families at the time on the property. So buried behind some other items in the garage, you could actually see a painting with Abram's name on it and the date of 1890. So
wow.
I think he was pretty proud of that, and he put that stencil on the door. So we're starting to learn a little bit more about that and the children. Abram actually lived across the street on a farm with his family, and then they erected the house in 1890. So a little tragedy, a little mystery associated with the house that we're trying to dig further into. I'm gonna just before we go to break, I'm gonna touch about there's a family cemetery on the property, which is really unique, and we're gonna go into that a little bit more and what we found there. But I have to say that the house, the Victorian house, to me really has a lot of oomph to it for whatever reasons. Now we know it's been rebuilt and it's been remodeled and stuff, but it has such a great feel to it. And I have to say that it's a toss-up. My favorite between the 1810 house or the Victorian. I don't know. I love. Now, if I had my choice of like sleeping in, I would be in the 1810 house, of course. I'd be in the stone house, because that's just the way I am. Agree.
But I have to say that it's just when I did gallery in the Victorian house, it had a lot of really great feeling to it, and it's really just a happy house. Now, let me just talk a little bit about the cemetery. The cemetery is funny because the cemetery they have rows of graves, but it was vandalized and nobody knew where anything was, and they were able to assemble whatever stones that they were able to find. But when they did ground penetrating radar, they found that all the graves are like catawampus all over the place, which is unusual I feel, because I've been to a lot of like family graves, graveyards, little cemeteries, and they're all in rows, they're all the Judeo-Christian rows. And this really, I was kind of shocked at. We know that two were, I think Hull and his wife were where they were.
Right.
but everybody else is all catawampus. So uh, that to me kind of like signifies that perhaps it was just like, well, we're gonna, we'll bury whatever little piece of property we can actually get, and when it's all kind of like, grown over now, but we have to remember that was all like farmland.
Right.
So I mean, they would take the least, I guess, the least productive area to bury people on.
Right.
But
And then
it's beautiful.
too, right. And Warren's farm, we have to remember that farm went past the back of the house over the 90, and then it took up half of the Lancaster Speedway. So it was more of a longer tract of land than wider. So, it was 390 something acres of land that he had.
And what was actually in Warren Hall's will, it was stated in there that he wanted to have a stone structure put around that cemetery. So Warren was there, Polly was there. Also, I believe Blaira, Ravana, there were a couple of his daughters in there. And he wished that in his will that they would build a stone wall around that cemetery. And what he wanted was that his family members, no matter how far they went, that at any point they would be welcomed by whoever owned that house to come back to the property and be absolutely left alone to go visit any of the graves that were in the cemetery at the time.
It's just an amazing.
Yeah.
Let me do a 30-second quick sponsorship roll, and we've got photos that we're going to show of the actual Hull House, and then we're going to go into what we found when we had the investigation. So stay tuned. We have the twins from Hull House. The Black Cat Lounge is brought to you by Paranormal Oddities, the little store with the big heart. Patronus Photographic, fine art, photography, and design. Nancy's Sewing Room, aprons, masks, and handmade purses. And Wild Raven, hand-poured candles for those magical times. And we're back. You're listening to the Black Cat Lounge here. Where else? Next to the dumpster station. Where else would you be? Hey, we've got the fantastic Amy and Rebecca Haymanowski on tonight. We're talking about the Hull House, guys, and welcome back. And I want to, for those of you who have never seen the Hull House, let me just put a little photo up. This is the front of it. It's such a beautiful brick building. It's a stone building that has been lovingly restored. And I have to say that in Western New York, I've only seen Fort Niagara is restored up to a point, but it's more of a military barracks. This place is a home. It really is, and it really makes it beautiful. And let's just talk about. Wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. We got Amy's a star. Wait a minute. I got to show everybody Amy's a star. Why? Because there she is. She's doing an interview. Look at that. Look at how professional she is when she's doing that interview. But I had to do that to you. But let's talk about the kitchen. The kitchen is really a neat place because it has an actual oven, a bread oven in it, and there it is. This is the kitchen. It's absolutely it's just beautiful. I mean, I could see myself actually cooking in there. I really could.
Mm-hmm. That is beautiful. And right there next to, if you're looking right at the fireplace, to the left, that kind of the wide area, that wide maroon colored area, that's a door. And when you open that door, it opens up to what's called a beehive oven. So it's literally in the shape of a beehive, kind of like where you would make, like today, like the flatbread pizzas and everything that you see in different restaurants. They were definitely ahead of the time, and women would work all day in that kitchen, making food for the day and preparing for the next day. And it's just a wonderful kitchen, and you can't see it, but right next to the table there, that center table on the floor, is a cistern. So that cistern would collect, it's a hole, basically a hole in the floor, and it collects rainwater. And obviously would not be for human consumption, but you could use it to wash dishes or prepare a bath, maybe clean up around the kitchen. So they were quite self-sufficient in that kitchen. Beautiful.
I love it. I love it, of course. But then I cook Dutch oven, so I mean, I love that. I've done that for years. So, you know,
Yeah.
what
That's the original cooking cream, Tim.
Well,
Also in that kitchen.
I
in
know,
that fireplace.
I know. That's what.
Original cooking cream.
If I could only if we could only cook in there, I would be like so thrilled.
Yeah,
But
no.
you know, you can't do that.
No, when I think about that beehive, Tim, and I open the door and I look in it, all I can think about is how many faces those stones have seen.
Oh
over
yeah,
the 210 years looking back.
yeah.
at it.
All I know is the first time I walked into that kitchen, I was just like, all I could picture, all I could feel was that little girl running around going,
Yeah.
you know, it was so amazing.
It was
amazing.
that little girl.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was the first thing. I thought, well, okay, I can handle this place. I like this. Well, this is the attic. And here's the attic. And the attic is neat. Now tell everybody about the photographer that was, or the reporter, or the photographer, no, the photographer, the local newspaper that went up with you guys. I love this story. It's one of my favorites.
It is. I was upstairs. This was actually after Joe Pieri had actually taken some video up in the attic, in which he actually, once opening the attic door, caught a black mass. He caught it on video. It was kind of broadcasted a bit.
It's on Facebook, actually.
Yeah, on the news. And then we had a reporter come in to do a story on the Hull House. And I took her upstairs, and we went upstairs to the attic. I shut the door. I locked the door. And we started discussing what we had seen with the black mass, and we started talking. Well, all of a sudden, as her and I are standing there, the latch on the door opened. It lifted up out of its hatch, and the door slowly opened. And I have goosebumps when I talk about it because it was ridiculous. And then the door stopped and then closed very slowly. So she took one look at me, and I looked at her, and I, holy, did you just see that? And she goes, I'm done. She gathered up her stuff and went right back down the stairs. And I was stuck in my spot. I couldn't believe what I had just saw. So it was pretty awesome.
Loved it. I loved it because I got a chance to talk to her later on. And she was just like, no, I'm not going up there. Not going up there again. I think it's great.
Yeah.
Dave wrote on there, when we were there in November, I think something in the attic touched my girlfriend's shoulders and grabbed my left arm, and we were 6 feet apart. That was crazy. And that's about par for the course there.
Yeah.
Now, as I stated before, the minute I walked in that place, I was just like, boom, there was just so much going on. And I'm pretty trained, I only look for I'm not one of these people that go, oh, there's thousands and thousands of spirits running around here, which I'm going to tell you what, there's a lot of spirits in that place, but I only look for like the very strongest energies. And my God, the children energies in there are just amazing. It's just so amazing. What are some of the things that you've experienced in the Hull House?
Yeah, and this is something that is, I think it's been experienced by a lot of people, different things throughout the years. It's not something that people tend to run to each other about. It's not something that I think we try to broadcast too loud. We're just slowly starting to get into it. And one of the very first things that I remember happening was a very simple thing. We had a K2 meter, and we were downstairs in the kitchen. I put it on the table. Didn't really think too much about it. It's kind of a dead zone in that house. There's no power source to say. I mean, there is, but it's not anything crazy. There's not much there. It's very simple. We were doing gardening all day. Came in the kitchen, sat down. We had Gary Costello, the president, with us. You, Scott, myself, and we did some gardening, sat down, talking about the day, and all of a sudden the K2 starts going off. And it was almost like it just came around to just see what we were doing, and then it left as quickly as it came. There's been reports of actually seeing full body apparitions, one of our volunteers, Donna. Do you want to talk about it? Or talk about Donna Schmidley? They were actually doing some renovation in the house, and she actually saw a gentleman in period clothes. He had on like blue pants with suspenders, kind of almost like 1860s style, if you will. Walking, she looked up and he looked at her and started walking straight toward her. And
Wow.
he backed up. She has seen children there. There's been people reporting sights of dogs, and yeah, actually even I think even a boy tending goats in the backyard,
Right, or a
coming,
horse or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
coming up from the cemetery. They were seeing people walking up from the cemetery on the path, which is alarming. God, we've had so many
I
things.
know, I haven't seen anything on the property, but I always had a feeling. And the feeling that I had was like a stern type of gentleman who I felt like he was watching what we were doing. I don't think he really liked it when we goofed off or laughed a lot, or I think he just wanted us to get to work. He wanted us to get to work.
Mm-hmm.
You stick to business, no messing around. And that's how I felt. And I felt like he didn't like my personality or my laugh. But you know, ever since you folks have been in, Tim and Joe and Deidre and Scott and everybody, Andrea, I don't know, I've just felt so much better being in there, and I haven't had that feeling since.
Well, you know what? Once it's demystified, to me, even when I had to work all those negative cases, if you go and you demystify it for people, you explain it a little bit more for people, you help them experience it, they experience it with you there, all of a sudden it's not so threatening, because now it's not like the boogeyman coming at you like most places are. That's huge. Ariana had asked, sorry, oh, if it's already asked, I just popped in, any psychics have gone there. I've been there, there's been a few psychics there, and everybody comes back with a great feeling from it. It's just amazing. Now, let's talk a little bit about the cemetery, because I'll be honest with you, Andrea, Richards, myself,
Deidre
from Souls Gate. Oh my God. It was like amazing, Scott. I mean, it was amazing the stuff that happened in the cemetery. So let me just show everybody a little bit of the pictures. This is actually the trail, the little path going up. That was the day that you said, hey, there's Tim's car. Where'd he go? And that was me wandering. So I was out taking photographs, and this is the actual cemetery itself, the Hull House Family Cemetery. And Warren Hull's grave is on the far left. And this is an amazing, amazing place. Now, again, we said that you can see how all the graves are like lined up in a line. But when they did the ground penetrating radar, they're all cattywampus all over the place. So they don't really know outside of Warren and Polly who's buried where. And I will say that it was. Every time I walked back in there, it was sort of an amazing experience. The first time, I mean, I was there I had just used dowsing rods, and it was like I asked where somebody was, is this where you're buried? And it's, and the dowsing rods reacted to no. And I took like a step and a half forward, and it crossed over as for a yes, which means that the headstone was like just a little bit off at an angle where he was supposedly buried.
Yeah.
Well, one of the biggest one that I have to say, and I got to bring it right up, because I'm gonna admit to everybody, when it comes to meters and heaters and scanners and banners and all that stuff, I was never brought up with that stuff. So I mean, I've actually come into this tech world like kicking and screaming, And the thing that I've always hated my entire life is flashlight. I hated them. I could never get it to work right. They never worked for me. I thought it was BS. And guess what? We're out there. Deidre is out there. Everything shut off. 2 flashlights. It was a Wheelock family, right? Because the father son.
I was with that group
Yeah, tell everybody about it, because you know what? At that point, I was just like, "You've got to be kidding me!" You know?
Were you with us, Tim, when the sky, right before, well, actually, right after that, I should say, were you with us, Tim, when the skies just opened up with that one group and
Yes.
it got real windy and it
Yes.
poured? But right before that, we had K2 meters, REM pods, flashlights. You know, our group would bring their own tools to use, which was also great. And it was like a light show. I mean, you didn't know where to look first. It was just going crazy. Nobody even had a chance to ask the question because of all the lights.
Yep.
The wind picked up and the skies just opened up with rain and wind. And we had run back to the Victorian and it was completely dry.
Hmm. I remember that. I remember that.
He asked us, "Why are you guys running?" And we said, "Well, it just poured." And he's like, "Well, it didn't rain here. So how could it just be a whirlwind hurricane in the cemetery yet be perfectly dry at the Victorian?" Yep. So that was just insane. And Bernadette, if you're watching, you were with me, I think, and Kate, it was crazy. Absolutely crazy.
And actually, Deidre had a really interesting session with flashlights on top of, one of them was on top of Warren Hull's stone, and she put the other flashlight on top of Valera Hull's, well, the daughter Valera stone, who actually passed away. They call this is like the greatest love story of the Hull house, in which the daughter Valera had passed away. She had a son. She was married, and then the husband actually ended up marrying Valera's sister. And this Miranda actually ended up taking care of Valera's daughter and our son, and then having a child of her own as well with him. And it was just like, what greater love than to marry, your sister's husband, take care of your child, and then proceed that way. And Deidre had the flashlights on the gravestones, and just knowing the history of the house, the questions she was asking and the answers we were getting, I was able to actually back it up with the history. Hey, Deidre, you remember? Yes, it was an argument. Exactly right. And it had to do with land. And well, the questions she was asking and the answers we were getting, I'm like, Deidre, you nailed it, because I can verify it with what I know about the will and gifting. So that was an amazing night. I will never forget that.
Now, I think the scariest thing, and I'm going to tell you what, it takes a lot for me to like kind of look sideways. I'm jaded. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm very, very jaded. When people come up to me and go, oh my God, this happened, and I'm going, yeah, okay, that's about right. After so many years, something has to be so unusual for me to really jump, like at the Wildwood Sanitarium when we were there, and I turned and there was like a shadow person standing like 6 inches away from my face. It was just, that gets me. I got to tell you what, I was getting like this and I'm not going to, when people are working, one of my main things is as a sensitive, I don't want to overtake the session. It's up to those people who are working. It's up to the witnesses. It's up to the docents. It's their thing. I want them to get out there and do it. But I just kept getting this like palpitation in my chest, and I'm going, what the hell is this? And I looked over and I saw on one side, I saw this face, that this person standing there, and I looked and I blinked my eyes, gone. Now, one of you girls were with me because why? They're twins. I have no clue which one's who. If they don't have a name tag, I don't know. I'm just going to do this. One of you guys were with me, and you saw it too. And it did like a Matrix thing, right? Tell everybody about that. That was like cool.
Yeah, I was very tall and dark, a very tall man, and had a very big head, and it had gone out from behind a tree with these really long arms, and the face was static. I remember that, and it just like did this, and it stared at. Actually, I think I caught it kind of staring at me, looking at me, almost as if I caught it. Like I wasn't supposed to see it, but I did. He was trying to get everybody else's attention, but I just happened to see him. And then that's when he got his arms like went back into the behind the tree. Like, wait a minute, you're not supposed to be. Like, this isn't for you. This is for everybody else. So it was just very, very odd.
Now, wasn't it Andrea that drew
Yeah.
the? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you can see this. Probably not, because I don't know which way I'm holding it.
Yeah, she's got. Yeah, there we go. We can see.
All
We
right.
can see it
So
there.
Andrea Richards, she had a vision of somebody that she had seen in the cemetery, and she drew a picture of it before seeing this photograph. And this is a lousy. There it is. Sometimes you can see it.
Yep, Andrea.
Andrea, she drew it a picture of a man, and I wish I had the comparison. She had a top hat on, and she's like, "This is who I saw." Well, I'm like, "Well, this was the man who built the Victorian," and she imposed her drawing on top of it. Dead ringer.
It was almost. I saw it. I mean, I saw. That was the person that I saw. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So there was like 3 or 4 of us that actually saw this person, this shadow or this spirit, whatever, this personality, long enough to actually imprint it in our brains and remember what he looked like. And when it was drawn, I remember seeing it, my mouth dropping. Very seldom does my mouth drop at anything.
Right. Yes.
But that was amazing. That was just an amazing night.
That's when we heard the wind chimes. We heard bells ringing after that, little tiny chimes. And I kind of looked at Andrew and I'm like, geez, what was it? I heard some bells. Maybe it's just my brain. And then Andrea said, why am I hearing bells? And I'm like, oh, so she validated with me that we both heard these little wind chimes. And just one thing happening after another.
We're trying to find out more about this man. He's the son, Abram Ersman's son, who actually went to college and came back to the house. There's a sketchy story that was in the newspapers that we saw of him driving with some friends, and this was in the late teens, 20s,
I believe so.
Friends came and got him. They drove down what is now Genesee Street away from the Victorian, and they ended up getting in a horrible car accident. The car went into a ditch, and he passed away. They rushed him back to the house, to the Victorian, and he passed away. And so we're trying to understand, we're trying to dig more into the Victorian, along with the Hull House carries with it, obviously. Its own 210 plus years of history. But there's a lot more happening next door that we did not realize until you guys came and we started digging into some of the
people that came in October. All of the people who paid to come and see us and, visit the grounds with us. And we were able to experience this at the same time with them. And we appreciate their support so much. And don't you agree, Tim, that each group had its own vibe? They carried their own aura. Yes. Each group was different.
I would say out of all the groups, now we were doing two investigations a night. I forget how many nights, because to me, investigations just kind of run into each other. I got to say that there was only one group that was sort of like bland.
Right.
And I think it was the people, they were just sort of like looking for like a thrill ride thing, entertain us. But everybody else there was a certain character, and it was neat because sometimes the children were so attracted to one group or another group. Sometimes it was the adults, like at the cemetery. Other times, one of the groups I took out, I couldn't get anything in the cemetery at all. Anything. Walked into the house, the stone house, bang, it just blew up. So I think it was the makeup, and that's what I always say when it comes to paranormal investigations. It's the makeup of the people who are there, mentally, physically, spiritually. It all kind of rolls together. Before I forget, I just want everybody to know the 1810 house ended up being a spot for refugees from Buffalo, New York, from the village of Buffalo, when it was burned by the British in retaliation of the burning of York, which is now present-day Niagara in the river, and Fort George across the Niagara River. So after it was burned, anybody that has like driven that road, Genesee from Buffalo and Ellicott, really, or Maine, all the way out there, you'll know that's quite a walk. So they shot in two different directions, towards Hamburg, New York, and then towards, and they stopped there on their way to Batavia, but it was still a refugee spot, a rendezvous spot. But the place is amazing. And I thought, oh, well, this is the greatest thing in the world. And I'm going to keep you guys a little bit longer because I love talking about the Hull House. But it's an amazing. I thought the 1810 house that was going to be that was the cat's ass. I'm going to tell you right. I thought it was the greatest. I thought it was the greatest thing in the world. Yeah, meow, baby. It was great. But
I mean, if you think about it, we say the frontier. That area was the Niagara frontier. Okay, when I think of the frontier, I think of the in the middle of the country where there's buffalo running. That to me is the frontier.
Right.
In reality, in 1804, right here, right in our backyard, was the frontier. It was uncharted territory, except for the Holland Land Company, who did their surveying. They were the first settlers right here in this. And how brave is that to bring your family? Now, they had 12 children, Warren and Polly. Obviously, not all 12 children were with them. Some were already grown and had their own families. And they had additional children while in the house. But just to go to uncharted territory and just to build for your family and start from the ground up. I mean, how brave is that?
It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. It's just amazing.
And there is no other house in this area. There's only one that was occupied in time by a Revolutionary War soldier. That's the Hull House on the pavement. And this isn't a story about somebody rich, somebody famous. This isn't about, something like that. This is about a normal, common family that's Western New York. It's like these people were us. They were the first Western New York family. So to me, that house is so special and it's so unassuming when you drive by it. There is no other house like it in the area. It's the only one still standing, and it's truly a treasure.
Yeah, most of the stone houses were taken apart when they fell into disrepair, and they were used for foundations of other houses and that sort of thing. Yeah. But that was very common. Very common.
The very floors you walk on, the land that is right surrounding that house is the very land they dug, they lived on it, they gave birth on it, they died on it, right on that.
Exactly. And that's what's so special about that place. That's like Fort Niagara. It's sort of, because I know where a lot of the bodies are buried or were buried. We'll just do like that. Were buried and moved, maybe. So I mean that gives it a whole different aspect when you go out there and you're doing either a historic research, because there's nothing better than boots on the ground when it comes to historic research. You guys know that. When you're there, you're seeing what people at that time period saw. Basically the same sky, the same horizon lines, the same divots in the ground. You see all that. Quickly, I wanted to say about the Victorian house. So I didn't have a lot of hopes for the Victorian house. I'll come right out and tell you guys. I didn't have a lot of hope. Jesus Christ. There's a place in that. You guys used to tell me, when I first came there, well, we don't like going into the basement. So everybody don't like to go in the basement. So I go in the basement. I go towards the back room there and go, whoa, this is this is funky, this is a little, I'm like, ooh, I almost had to think about changing my underwear there for a couple seconds as I was walking back in there.
Oh yeah, he hit a bit. Yeah.
The activity that is in the basement, in that far, like towards Genesee Street, the front of the house, is crazy. It's crazy. I mean, we've used every piece of equipment that all of us had. All of us brought packs and packs and packs of equipment, and we did a preliminary investigation before we did the public event, and then we did one afterwards as a wrap up. And I got to tell you what, it was insane. Now, it's funny, the personalities, because in the 1810 house, in the cemetery, the barn, it's really benign. It's very, very nice. It's benign. You know, you don't get F-bombs, you know.
Yeah.
Although we did get demon one time when we were up on the, you know, in that one room. And
Yes.
that's when I shot it with some Latin and it didn't come
I
back at me. I
remember
said, no,
that.
there's no, excuse
I
me,
remember
you ain't no
that.
demon. You know,
Yeah.
ain't no demon there. But I mean, the F-bombs and all the stuff in that Victorian house, I was like, what? This is crazy. And it would like, it had said my name a couple times and swore at Joe Chiari quite a few times. And we got the, I mean, we were using, we were getting some really good stuff on recorders. But the scanners, now again, I was never like a big scanner guy. I was like, you know, they're just, you know, luck of the Irish type of deal, you know. Oh my God. I mean, it was answering in real time. And that's what blew my mind on that one. That's what totally blew my mind on it. That Victorian house, there's a lot to it. There's
and the women in
a
the
lot
group
to it.
felt a child. They felt a child in that room.
Right.
It appeared that child gravitated towards some of the women that were in our groups.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really interesting, and I was crazy.
Yep, I was in there with Deidre, and that was probably one of my most memorable nights from the investigations with Deidre, because we literally had, all I can describe is a light storm. We were in that room, and she was talking. And she's like, I'm gonna just get a little more, not aggressive, but just get a little more stern with this spirit, because we felt like there was a man there and a child. The child wanted to come in, but the man just did not want the child to come in, being very controlling. And she started talking to this man's spirit, just saying, you know, you have to be nice, you have to let the child in. And I have goosebumps talking about it again, because all the lights started going crazy. I never saw how many lights going off at once, from dead to blinking like crazy, answering her. Everybody felt it. Everyone just started holding hands, because at that moment we just felt kind of like, what is going on in here? And then it just like it
was amazing, because you know, I mean, we had put our toys all over the place. You know, everybody's got it on the tables or around the walls. Very seldom do you ever get anything like that. The only time you get anything like that is if you get like, it's like an echo from a cell phone. You know, the frequency kind of bounces. They can go. I mean, because they can go hundreds of miles, but you don't get it that often. You know, you really don't. And this thing was just weird, and it was in real time. That is what like always shocks me, is when you get direct answers. It's not just something that, well, maybe or whatever. Because I know a lot of guys that do scanning work, they'll ask a question and they get all this gobbledygook, and maybe they'll get an answer at the end. They'll cut out like, 35 seconds, 40 seconds. This is like, you get an answer or you ask a question, lights go on. You ask a question, bang, you get, within, I'm talking 10, 15 seconds. That's amazing. That's something that you don't get it. Yeah, you don't get that often. Now, we have to come right now. We have to make sure we put this and say this up there. The Hull House is not open on a regular basis for paranormal investigations, right? It'll be, but you guys can just say why, and then you can say, well, you can give everybody a teaser for the fall.
Right. And given now with the time of year, the Hull House has no heat. So you can imagine what it's like for a tour inside the Hull family home now. But in this spring, we will definitely open up and have tours and daytime historical tours, so that, and people who were there at night in October with us, please come back and get a daytime tour, so you can see more of the house in the daytime and more of a much more historical information. And, in October, we really like to, we're planning on having another event, just as we did this past fall, with some more historical and paranormal investigation together, because we really enjoyed it last time and had really great support.
Yeah, and we have a lot of skeptics, and that's okay. That's the way we want to present it is let's talk about the history of the Hull House, the Victorian, the cemetery, the barn, which has a lot of history in itself. Let's talk about that. And at the same time, learn about the spirits and that residual that's probably still left behind because we've been experiencing it. One of our skeptics, Bernadette, I wouldn't say she's a skeptic, but she kind of has a critical eye about it. She's a very smart lady, and she will admit, she's during the day, she goes about her business and does her thing. She sweeps the stairs, she takes care of things. But once that sun goes down, the house, hey Donna, miss you, girl.
I miss you.
Once the sun goes down, the house kind of takes on a different feel. And I think it would be awesome, even this summer or coming into the fall, that we join together and investigate some more, because we're learning from the public as much as you're learning from us about history.
From their energy. They're bringing their energy in and their instruments, and we're learning up with them. Jason Marble.
Yeah.
Hey,
Jason.
he came and joined us.
Jason, Jason's great.
Yeah, so he helped us out. At one point, you could kind of feel in the Victorian, it was kind of leveling out a little bit. It got a little quiet with the group. Jason pulled out one of his instruments there and said, let's just try this and see what happens. And he got the whole ball rolling again. And,
and the level of respect from the people we've worked with on the paranormal side with public has been, the level of respect has been unbelievable. And it is just what we're looking for.
That's what you want. And and again, this is why with the show I wanted to go and talk about the history of the house, because it's so important that people understand this is not a sideshow or a haunted house. This is a jewel, a historical jewel that needs to be nurtured, cherished, and is amazing. And I have to put this up real quick because my wife is not a fan of paranormal investigations. She knows it's there. Her quote always is, "I know it's there. Why am I going to go look for it?" And she lives with me, which is like enough. I mean, as it is. But it was so funny because you guys, she was dying to see the houses. So we were in there and we went into the 1810 house, the Hull House, and the door shut. Which, like, we heard a door slam and then we heard a woman's voice, and it was like she just looked at me and she goes,
she left my side and she took off down the hall, and she's like, hello, there has somebody out here. I'm like, where did she just go? And she just, bam, she's gone. And she's like, there is somebody out here. I'm like, I can't believe that just happened, because it did happen with Nancy. And you know who else it happened with is Mike Randall, when he came to do a piece with Joe and myself and Bernadette. And I never saw this happen before. He was standing in the common room, and we have stoppers in the doors. And standing there talking, and the tavern door dragged the stopper. Joe heard it too. I saw the door started to close. I said, what? How is that door closing? It has never moved, ever. And the whole time I've been volunteering here. And I could hear the stopper skidding across the ground, the floor, and the door was shutting. I'm like, that door's moving. And I just couldn't believe it. It was an unbelievable experience. And that's just that you don't know when it's going to happen.
Typical.
Right? And then at the very end,
Typical.
group that we were with, the very last night, Joe Pierre and myself, with a small group of people, we were in the cemetery, and Joe said, let's wrap it up, let's end it. And he was doing the EVP. We all gathered in a small circle in the cemetery. We all said goodnight at the same time. And so Joe recorded that, and then he played it back. And you could hear us say goodnight. And then after that, you could hear a very distinct goodnight. And it was a male's voice that responded. And for anyone who's watching who was with us that night, you know what I'm talking about. There's no explanation for it. No? Yes, it just said good night.
I love it.
It's an amazing place.
And
we're still learning more about it too.
That's but you know what? That's the fun of it. I think that's what's so important, because it's a big jigsaw puzzle. And the more that even the smallest piece of information or research that you find adds to it and builds on it. And and what I'm waiting for is, I'm waiting for volume 2 of this to come out. This
Me
is
too.
my personal
Oh.
copy, so I can. This is so that I can cheat when people ask me about the Hull House. I have all the information right here. I'm in good shape.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
I read as a docent, that's my go-to book. I love
Oh,
that
it's a
book.
great. It's a super great book.
Yep.
I got one more thing I want to bring up here. Amy would like to know, would you do small groups? I'm thinking about like 2 families,
Yep.
like a total of 8.
That's about the size we were doing, 8 to 10 people to keep social distance and to keep up with COVID rules and regulations. That's what we were doing, and it was quite comfortable,
Right.
plenty of space and intimate. So yes,
We will. Especially when the weather turns. I would love to. We're talking about maybe just doing these impromptu Thursday night, Friday night. It's nice out. Who wants to
with you,
gather?
Tim and Deidre and Scott and Joe and Andrea.
Let's gather. Let's have a nice couple hours out here when it's nice out and see if we can walk the property, go inside, and
With no expectations.
Yeah. No,
Twist
there's nothing fancy.
my arm.
Nice and yummy.
Heart. Ouch. You twisted my arm. The twins have twisted my arm. Now, but before I let you guys go, let me. Oh my God, Amy, look who's in the room here. Just want to let you know. Amy I just.
She's out.
Amy is Dustin Perry's one of his biggest fans, and Amy and Dustin did something so nice. He sent Amy a autograph photo.
Oh my God! See me, I opened that up and beautiful. It was a beautiful picture. I love it. I'm gonna frame it and put it right on my wall. Thank you for that. What a surprise. And that was a day. I was having a bad day. And I went down to the mailbox, opened it up, and it said, Tim Shaw's Tim Shaw's retired. That's what I said on the back. I was like, what the heck is this? I opened it up. Justin's face.
That was funny. Hey, listen, listen, Amy, I want to tell you something. I don't even have a photo of Dustin. I have all these people. I don't have a photo. I don't have his autograph at all. So next time we get together, when we're stuck in the Detroit airport, which we inevitably are every year, a couple times we find ourselves there. I'm just gonna put him down. I'm gonna have him autograph my arm, and then I'm gonna have Chris Paul tattoo it on my arm. I think that's what I'm gonna do.
What a gift! Thank you. I want to thank you because I told him to thank you for me. So I thank you.
I texted him when you told me. He's Dustin is just a great person, and he's a caring person. And it just and I'll be the first one to say some of the people in the paranormal that are on TV are not so nice. They really aren't. The egos get in the way and stuff. Dustin, I've known him for quite a few years, and Dustin and I, we've known each other, and he's always been just a perfect gentleman, just such a nice person, always concerned about everybody else out there other than himself. Just a great guy. That's enough about you, Dustin. Dustin, thank you for hopping in, buddy.
So nice. Thank you.
Before I let you go, like most historic locations and public locations, it's really tough. COVID has destroyed the rock bottom of everybody's finances. I mean, people are just like scraping by. These locations can't afford to pay, maintenance people. Everything has to be in-house. I mean, electricity, water, all this stuff has got to be paid. And it has taken such a toll on everybody. And it was so great that you guys came out and talked to Joe, and we were able to get this. You guys were able to get it past the board, and it was an honor to be able to go out there and help raise some money for you guys. So that was really super. And I know that Deidre and Scott have also continued that work, which is phenomenal. But tell everybody about the volunteer opportunities, which when I get I'm looking for right now. I think I've got a lead on a pair of cheap Amish pants I may be buying. So
Yeah.
I may be coming out this summer to traipse around and
We would
look
love
beautiful.
to have you.
But tell everybody
Yeah,
about the
to have-
volunteer opportunities and how they can donate if they'd like to do so.
And that's the most important thing to know too, is that the Hull House, people that are helping with the Hull House, if we are 100% volunteer. No one gets paid for the work they do. So anytime you see anybody out there, whether they're doing gardening, washing a window, whatever it may be, that person is there on their own time. There is no payment made in any way. The monies that we were able to earn, and this was, I literally woke up with a dream about running to Joe Pieri and asking him for help, and he helped us. Every single penny that we earned from those events, 100% goes to that Hull House. And with COVID, we were literally able to make up all the monies that we would have made over that spring and summer. All those events we couldn't have. We couldn't do anything. We couldn't do our teas, our picnics, our Pep-Palooza. Everything was just put on the sidelines because of COVID. This event and everybody's generosity helped us make up for those events that we could not do. We could not believe the generosity. Yes. If anybody wants to volunteer, you can go to www.hullhouse.com, and that is actually where you go to volunteer. And I'm also doing Volunteer Western New York. That's another website. I manage that website for the Hull House, and we put volunteer opportunities up there, whether it's just gardening for the day, going into the Hull House, maybe dusting a little bit. We do a lot of digging around the Hull House. There's a ton of yard work to do. Painting, we're always painting our fences and inside, what have you. There's never-ending work to be done there. Come and volunteer. It is a great opportunity to meet new friends.
Great people.
Great people. We won't make you sign your life away to volunteer. Come for the day. Come for an hour. Bring your family. So family friendly, COVID friendly as well. We're outdoors most of the time. So we wanted to put that out there for anybody who'd like to come and join our family home family.
I love it, and you'll probably see me out there wandering around doing something or other.
I hope so. Mary's counting on it. Yeah.
Wait a minute. I think I got the okay. I can garden and dust. So Nancy's coming too.
Excellent.
But it's an amazing place. I can tell you, after I've been a volunteer up at not only Fort Niagara, but I've been a volunteer at the Antietam National Battlefield and at Gettysburg for national parks. And I can tell you that you don't have, if now, because some people don't like to dress up or you feel funny about it. Right. There's so much other stuff that you can do, even if it's just cutting grass or weed whacking or doing anything. That's what's so important, just to do something. And I always, one day in a meditation, back in the day before I was listening to AC/DC constantly, I got to say that, what makes a difference in a person's life? The grand gestures where you go out there and you donate $1 billion to do something, or is it just opening the door for a little old lady walking into the bank? What is that impact? So anything that you guys can do when it comes to volunteering is so greatly appreciated. I mean, not only just like at Hull House, but all over the place. And what you got to do, and I mean, like with me, I volunteered producing and directing up at Lockport Cable TV, and for not-for-profits. Whatever you feel comfortable doing, there's always a place for you. And that's what I love about it. And that's why it's so important. And don't think that you're going to get pigeonholed at Hull House. Don't think that that you're going to have to go and you're going to have to get a tattoo of Hull House on your arm, so you can't go anywhere else. Just contact them and see what it's all about. And that's what's so great about, I think, the opportunities there. And Gary Costello is an old Civil War buddy of mine, so I mean, we go way back. And I was just impressed by everybody, all the amount of work, the amount of effort that is put out there, and nobody complains. And I mean, to see for the October events, to see the amount of of lanterns that were put out and hand lit. I mean, I'm an author. Hand lit. That's a great word. Hand lit.
That's our gig.
And put out there, and then the next day you guys were there and manning the tents and keeping a fire going and watching everybody. And again, everything was COVID friendly. Joe Piari went out of his way to in that he's a madman. I tell you, he's just a mad scientist. And I don't know, his brain works so much. I'm afraid of what's going on in there half the time. But he was able to go and figure out how to do things. You guys were able to go and everything was able to meet together, and it meshed perfectly. Ariana would like to know, do you wear period clothes? Yes, to docent tours. Yeah, they do.
If you want to become a docent, you do not have to dress in period attire. We encourage it. We happen to like it. And if anyone ever wanted to get involved with that, we'd be more than happy to guide them with that. Yes, we have all, and we love every era, from Regency to Civil War to Edwardian to Victorian and all of that. So
and they usually have. And here's the nice thing about Hull House. They have timelines, which is nice because they have Rev War. They have encampments there. They have Civil War encampments there, and they have other things that are going on there. And that's what's so nice about when it's so time era friendly that you're able to go. See, this is what happens when you think a lot. The pressure pushes the pressure of my brain pushes my earbuds out. But it's just so nice that you guys do it. And so much going on.
Too, especially with the history of the wars. Every family that has lived in that stone structure has seen a major war. Revolution, War of 1812, 1, 2, Korea, Vietnam, all the way through Civil War. And the Hulls participated in right up to the Civil War. They had actually brother against brother on that. In the Civil War. So lots of stories there. And I think even in terms of a volunteer aspect, we need people on the educational committee. I'm on the educational committee. We're always trying to dig in and find out more information to add to our docent books. It's fun just to go to the libraries or the local, the historical society area and do some homework. And do the homework.
That's what's so great. And and again, I mean, a lot of times the smallest little tidbit of information can open up an entire book. That's what's so great about it. So anyway, hey, I've had you guys on long enough. I don't want to get you guys hating me because I'm going to keep you here all night long.
No, thank you so much for having us on with you, Tim.
It was fun.
Really, we always love watching you, and to be at this end for one night, it feels great.
It feels special.
Yeah. We really.
Happy birthday to Chris.
Oh, that's right. Wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. Before we go, we have a very special request, and you know whose birthday it is? The wonderful Chris Coppola. So you know what? Before I turn off, Nancy just came down and just gave me a quick, let's get going. Here we go. Are you ready? Hey everybody. Yeah, babies. I want everybody just to go wherever you are. And I want you guys to sing out. I want you guys to look around and say, we're going to go, and this is for Chris Coppola. And you know what? He may not hear you, but the vibrations will be out into the ethers. And the ethers will go, and Chris Coppola will go and have a happy birthday. So this is for you, Chris Coppola, everybody. And a 1, and a 2. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you, Chris Coppola, baby. Happy birthday, dear Chris Coppola, tattoo man, artist extraordinaire.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to you. has left the building.
Bravo. Beautiful.
That was for Chris. Now my brain is mush, guys.
That was awesome. Good job, Ken.
I love it. Stick around. I'm gonna say goodnight, and I'd like to talk to you guys
Good night.
just a little
Good night,
bit.
everybody.
Thank you for being on, guys. You guys rock
you for having
it. You
us.
guys are just fantastic.
Be safe, everyone.
Hey, everybody, and you know what? Aren't Amy and Rebecca incredible people? Again, this is a diamond in the rough. I absolutely love the place. I love the volunteers in the Western New York area. It's literally in my backyard, and just because it's there doesn't mean that everybody's got to flock to it. But what I want you guys to do is support something that really needs it in your area. You know, a lot of people, you know, they feel that their need is for Meals on Wheels or that, and that's fine. Everybody has to find what they feel, and it doesn't matter what you do. Give something back, just a little bit back. That's all you have to do, and you'll have a great life. And I just want to give everybody a little just a quick prayer for everybody who is suffering from illness and that. And Mother, Father, God, you know by 1,000 names. Thank you for tonight, and I want you to please help the suffering ones out there who are sick with COVID, who are sick with diseases that are just taking them down so much. Help those who are depressed. Help those who really, really, really need it. And I thank you and I honor you. I thank you so much. And I thank all of you for listening to Where Else? The Black Cat Lounge here every Tuesday night where the elite meet next to the transfer stations. And guys, may I say that this has been just a phenomenal evening. Thank you very much and God bless. Ciao, babies.